Just quick things before we get rolling, just so you guys will see that out. So we'll take Dean Lowry and Patrick Taylor off PUP, and we'll take Caleb Bryce and Caleb Jones off NFI. So those guys will practice today. So anyway, it's good to be back. It's an exciting time of year, and take your questions.
So you think Dave's going to be ready for week 1?
You know, we're not going to put a timetable on it, but what I will say is, like, you know, Dave had a very significant injury, much more than just an ACL way back when it occurred. I thought he busted his tail to get back last season, and then as we went through that last game versus Detroit, you know, I think when he came out of that, you know, he wasn't particularly happy with how it responded, and excuse me, he did have another procedure, and so. Yeah, in the off season, but I think that you know, we're cautiously optimistic.
You say cautiously optimistic. It's been so long since he's played, and he's had multiple setbacks, multiple surgeries. Is there any concern in your mind that he might never get back? Not just
No.
the player that he was. No.
None. Mm-mm.
Brian, how do you guys avoid knee-jerk reactions and maybe looking to sign another tackle or looking to sign another offensive lineman when he continues to have those setbacks like that?
Well, I wouldn't really call it setbacks. I think it's just been part of the process as we've gone through. Like I said, it was a significant injury. But I like our group, you know, so like we played all last year, you know, without him, and obviously won a lot of games. So I think it's one of the ways we build our offensive line, and I think Luke does such a good job with them, cross-training them, that we're able to cover for some of those things.
The additional procedure, do you know when the offseason?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details of that.
Brian, looking at the rest of the offensive line, Elton Jenkins is also still rehabbing a knee. So with 2 of your top starters not being out, where do you see Elton coming through, and how do you see the rest of the line kind of shaping up?
Yeah, Elton's doing great, and we're excited like to get him back out there. Hopefully that'll be soon. He's certainly ahead of schedule. So, you know, when he gets out there, I mean, you know, Elton's a unique guy that can line up at 5 spots. And so once we get him out there and kind of get down the road a little bit to see where Dave's at, we'll kind of start looking at those, you know, where everybody's going to line up.
I asked Mark Murphy on Monday. He made major changes to football operations in 2018. You, Matt, and his staff, moves that you made in free agency. What makes you think this year is your best shot at getting to a Super Bowl? He thought you might have your best defense since 2010.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had our first practice yet, you know, so we'll kind of see where that goes. I'm very excited about the group that we have, watching how they worked in the offseason. Certainly we have some very experienced elite players coming back. Really excited about some of the newcomers we've added. You know, let's get through some practices and kind of see how this thing comes together. There's enough talent in that room. There's no doubt about it. You know, I think that not every team can probably say that, but this team can. But they're going to have to come together and be a team. And today, it starts today.
Brian, has the change of the PUP kind of timeline from 6 weeks to 4 weeks changed your, or does it challenge your thinking at all as far as what your prognosis is for certain guys like Elton?
Right. Sure.
Instead of 6, it's only 4. Does
Yeah.
that change your thinking there?
I mean, we love it, right? From a personnel perspective, it gives us a little bit more flexibility. It's a long season. I think, you know, last year was just one extra game, but it just felt so much longer than it had before. And so I think as you try to manage the roster to give yourself the best shot once you get to the end of it, I think it does change your thinking a little bit. At the same time, I think when players are ready, players are ready. And I don't think holding them back for because of, you know, we can get them back quicker. I mean, if they're ready to go, we're not going to, you know, keep them on PUP just because it's only 4 games instead of 6.
Brian, do you have to accelerate the learning curve with so many young wide receivers, or is that just a natural process that they're going to have to go?
Yeah, I think there's things they got to go through. I mean, you know, this is probably a really good question for Matt, but I think there's a foundational way that they teach the offense that you can't really skip steps. I think the opportunities will change, you know, when you have young receivers, when kind of where we're at for some of those guys. But I don't think you can skip steps in players' progression.
Brian, what do you think Allen Lazard can be for you guys?
I'm excited to see what he can be for us, you know, kind of in a different role, you know. Allen's a very confident guy. Every time we've given him opportunity, he's produced. So with these new opportunities, I'm excited to kind of see him grow and develop. But I think sky's the limit for him. I think he could be a really good player in this league. He has been a really good player for us. So I think he's excited for the opportunity as well.
Brian, after the draft, you called that wide receiver room, I
think, not settled. Would that still be a fair assessment?
I don't think our team's settled, right? I mean, it's kind of a constant process, and again, we're in practice one. So there's, through this course in the next 6 weeks as we head towards the beginning of the regular season, part of this is kind of seeing where we're at, what we have, and what we can count on, and what we maybe can't count on. So that's part of the process for the whole team, and that's a big challenge as we go forward. Is making sure we know what we know, and also know what we don't know.
How about wide receiver specific, though?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're going into practice when I'm really excited about all those guys, but if we get to a point that we feel, that we need more, then we'll certainly address it at that time. But the roles that we expect some of these young guys to play, we want to give them that opportunity to go out there and see if they can do it.
What is your expectation for getting Christian and Sammy back, and how important is it to get them back in the sense that they've never been here yet?
Yeah, Sammy's a very short-term thing. I mean, you never want any guys to miss any time because, it's all valuable. But Sammy will be very short-term. I think you'll see him out here pretty soon. Christian was one of those things. We came out of OTAs, and there was, I think there was kind of a thought process. We could, do you want to try to push through the season and finish this after the 2020 season, or should we just go ahead and do it now? And we just did it now. So he'll miss a little bit of time here in camp, but it's nothing long-term.
Hey, Brian, what did it mean to you to get the contract done?
Excuse me?
What did it mean to you to get the contract done?
Very appreciative of Mark and the organization. I've been here a long time, and I count my blessings every day just to be around this place. But that was, the fact that didn't come out was probably on me, just something that I kind of think is a private thing. I appreciate Mark keeping it quiet and things like that. But it's like anything. I've been through a lot of these things when Ted was here and then now, and it's just, you just feel blessed every time you get a chance to walk through these doors.
365 days later from being up at the podium last year at this time, it's such a different situation for you. Just how much things have changed in your year, especially obviously with football.
Yeah, no, it's good to see him. Good to get him back in the building. Obviously, we're excited for where he's going to take us. Yeah, I know where you're coming from. For me, really, I mean, it's probably a much different vibe in the world. But for me, it was just, every day was the same. Even last year, it was just trying to make this team better. Just trying to give them every opportunity to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So, again, last year was an exciting time of year. This year's an exciting time of year, and we're just really, eager to kind of move forward.
With Watson, do you expect him to be ready for the start of the preseason games, or is it?
Yeah, we're not going to put any timelines on. He's a young player. When we invest what we invested in Christian, we're obviously looking out for the long term. We always do. He's a young player that's got a big career ahead of him, so we want to make sure we protect that. So it'll really be how he responds, through the rehab and stuff. And as soon as he's ready, we'll get him out there.
Brian, what do you think about the depth on your roster?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think, you're constantly it's funny how you just change your focus. It doesn't matter where your team is. You're always kind of obsessing over, maybe bigger things and little things. You're kind of always just kind of looking, how can we improve this? How can we improve that? But, I like our group. The depth is a fragile thing, we're going into practice one and we've got a bunch of guys that are going to be sitting out. So that depth can change very, very quickly, and we have to be prepared for that. But right now, looking at our 90-man roster, I really like our depth.
You talked about the steps the young receivers need to make. Motivates a back-to-back MVP to take those young receivers through those steps?
That's a good question for him, but he's, and you guys that have been around here a long time, he never lacks for motivation. You know what I mean? I think he's very unique in his ability to look at things and create challenges for himself, and I think he's excited to take on this one. We have on paper, again, we haven't had a practice yet, but we have a very talented group of defensive players, and that competition day in and day out, I think, our guys are going to thrive on. It's going to be challenging to go against those guys, especially early on, in the 2-minute situations and third down and those kind of things. I think those, the great players get really excited for those days.
Is this the best feeling you've had about that defensive side since you've been here at this time of year going into training camp?
Again, yeah, it's hard to say until we get through some of these practices and kind of see how we develop and really through part of the season. But yeah, I like, how I look at it from a personnel perspective. I think we have more flexibility to do different things on defense than maybe we've had in a while.
Goody,
Mhm.
you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Rodgers comes back last year and has that press conference, and one of the things that he, for lack of a better term, goes after you for is your relationship with players.
Mhm.
And there's a scene where Billy Beane is talking to Jonah Hill, and he says, I can't develop personal relationships with these guys. I'm
Right.
gonna send them down, cut them. Have
you altered your approach? And that, you came up under Ron.
Yeah.
I came up around with Crystal, like, we're not supposed to be touchy-feely. Have you
Right.
altered your approach in that, and did you think that that was important?
I don't know if I've altered my approach. I think communication is a big thing. I think that's probably what I think from my view has changed the most in our game is just communication with the players. I think that when I first came in here, that wasn't necessarily, part of it, and I think different players, require, have earned certain, different kinds of communications and stuff. So I think that's part of it. I think that's certainly something that, Matt and I talk about all the time. And it's kind of a fine line, but we certainly, I think it's important that the leaders of our football team are kind of in tune with what Matt and I are thinking.
So it would appear that you and Aaron are in now a great place 365 days later. Do you think that that's been one of the keys to that? And do you think players are different than when, we were at our first training camps 20-some years ago?
Yeah, I think yes and no. I think that they're different. I mean, when I walk through the locker room, they're not playing cards and dominoes and things like that. They're all sitting on their phones and, going through that kind of social media and stuff. So from that perspective, yes. But they're still football players, and first and foremost. And most all these guys love to play. They're passionate about the game. And they want to make this team. They want to win. And none of that's changed, The game hasn't changed all that much. But I do think it's like anything. It's just no different than my children or anybody else. They're growing up in a different world with how they communicate, and it's on us to kind of adjust to that to a certain degree.
Brian, what has John Eric meant to you, given his new promotion?
John Eric and I have worked together for a long time, and he's invaluable to what we're doing here. Our group as a whole is fantastic, and certainly the kind of the three guys that I've leaned on from the beginning, with John Eric, Milt Hendrickson, and John Wojciechowski. Those guys do such a good job. They're all ready to kind of probably take over their own places and ready to do that, and they deserve it. Selfishly, I don't want any of those guys to go anywhere.
Brian, you made several roster moves just in the last couple of days with the 90 minutes. Seemed kind of unusual to make that many moves right before the first practice. Was it like the PUP NFI stuff that led to that? Or
A little bit.
What was kind of the...
Yeah, I think just a little bit as we had some guys that came back and weren't ready to go. You're trying to look how you're going to get through practice. The one thing about the roster management this time of year is if, it's not just do you have enough guys to go out and practice, but the stress that, if you lose a guy here, lose a guy, the stress it puts on the other players and stuff. So I think it's just, I think you see that throughout the league right now and over the next few weeks. A lot of it's just getting your numbers right so you can go out and practice. So.
I want to see results, but do you see like a culture shift in the special teams unit with Bisaccia coming over to Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, Rich has got so much experience. He brings a lot of juice. Obviously, there's been a huge focus, and there always has been. But I think this year, obviously, with what happened last year, we want to make sure that doesn't fail us in the end like it did last year. So, having Rich here has been great. He brings a lot of juice, a lot of energy, and then the experience factor, I think, of doing it for as long as he's done it, I think is something we're all excited about.
Hey, Brian, are you going to do any more cross-training with your offensive linemen than normal, considering the state of no right tackle and an injured left tackle?
No, I mean, we do a lot of that to begin with. I think with young players, you'd love to be able to keep them in one spot and just kind of train them there, but that's not really how we go about it. And you go back to the years too, like not just the way we're doing it now, but we went out there one family night expecting Brian Balaga to be our left tackle, and that ended there. And then David had to go over there and survive that first year, and then flourished into the player he is now. But I think you got to kind of that group when you go into a season with 8 or 9 of those guys on your 53. They got to be able to play multiple spots. If you have a player that is really kind of pigeonholed into one spot, that really hurts your roster. So we'll cross-train them, and it'd be nice to get a bunch of reps in the preseason games at different spots. Whether that'll happen or not, we'll see.
Hey, Brian, you brought in John Brown, Julio Jones signed yesterday. What do you think the veteran receiver market looks like right now? Are the prices too high? Are you waiting for later in camp?
Yeah, we're not. I don't think like right now we're really looking to add anything. I think we're just kind of like we go through what we do, our process to make sure we're aware of what's out there and if we have to make a move. But I mean, there's some guys out there. They'll be at the cut down time, there'll be guys out there, and so we'll kind of roll through. But like I said, I really like the group we have. I want to give those guys the opportunity to see what they can do, and if we feel we need to do anything, we'll adjust. But right now, it's like any year at this time of year, there's not a lot out there. If they're usually on teams,
Rudy, Schefter reported that you guys were in on Julio Jones. I understand you're not going to comment directly on him, but you have always said that you're going to be in every conversation.
Yeah.
How important is it to explore those things, and even if you like your guys in that room, it wouldn't hurt to add a veteran player like that, right?
Yeah, I think, and this has been how it's been the whole time that I've been here, but I want our guys to always have the information, know what's going on out there, being in those conversations, which leads to a lot of media reports that we were in on things where maybe it was just a phone call, But yeah, our guys are doing their job and making sure they touch base with whatever's out there at every position. So just so we can kind of, talk about it, be informed, and if we have to move quickly, we can move quickly.
Brian, you signed that, in the last question about signing players, you signed that safety from the Raiders who
Mm-hmm.
played with Rich.
Allen.
Not that he's running the personnel operation, but does he have maybe a bit more of a say on personnel matters than maybe some other coordinators have had?
Yeah, our coaches have always been involved in, how we go about it. And since Rich just got here, obviously he had pretty good knowledge of some of the guys that were with the Raiders. So obviously, whenever we're bringing a new coach, we're going to go through the roster with those guys and kind of, find out information about what they thought about the players there. Obviously, Dallin has been a pretty elite special teams player there for a few years. So certainly he was excited to get him in the building, and we've had him for a couple of days here, but, seems like a great kid, and we're excited what he can do for us on there. Played a bunch of snaps at safety too, and so I think just kind of giving more depth there, I think is helpful as well, so.
Brian, can you talk about the Packers' record financials and how it may or may not help you get free agents in the future?
Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit more question for Mark, but, obviously, for Green Bay to have a National Football League team, us staying viable that way is very, very important. The support that we get from the organization as far as, really no limitations to what we feel we need to do to win, has always been one of the kind of hallmarks of this place and what makes it so special. So, there's really no excuses from that end of it. We're gonna be able to do what we need to do financially to win if we think it's the right thing.